And I remember just watching him and I was like, oh, what is that? And that's when I learned there's a local scene of people that get up every night and do this. What?
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Finding a Way, the podcast for positive change. I'm your host, Jim, and today I'm here with comedian, writer, multi-hyphenate, the one, the only, Jackie Keliiaa.
Yes, you got it, Jim.
Yes.
Yep, you did it.
Welcome. Thank you for being here
Thank
with
you
us.
for having me. This is great.
How you doing today?
I'm doing okay. The world's interesting.
Yeah.
We made it through January, the longest year.
Longest year of the year.
Yeah. But I'm feeling optimistic, which is maybe foolish, but
Hey,
that's
what we got to do, though.
Yeah, I feel good about certain things.
Right on.
We're still trying to figure out what to do with that administration, but we'll get there.
It came in hot.
So hot.
It was weird because I feel like I've kind of been comparing, Trump 1.0 versus Trump 2.0. I don't even want to say the word, but here we are.
I know.
And I feel like, the last term, there was a big deal about the first 100 days.
Yes.
This time it feels a little bit more muted, but also more chaotic in a way. Do you feel that?
Chaotic. Yeah. Well, now he's got like a billionaire behind him.
Right. He's got a team of billionaires.
Yeah. He's got billionaires.
Yeah.
And all the money, all the power, and all the worst things you could do to put this whole thing in the dumpster.
It's like, it feels like I was watching Batman, or no, not Batman. It was the Harley Quinn.
Oh, okay.
Actually,
I haven't seen it yet, actually.
It's a funny, animated thing, but they have, this team called the Injustice League, and that's just what it feels like. It's like Joker and all these random villains that are just, teaming up and wreaking havoc. That kind of feels where we're at right now.
Yeah, I feel like the Death Eaters took over the Ministry of Magic, and, they've taken over Hogwarts, and all the weirdos are coming out the woodwork.
Yeah.
It feels like that.
But that's why we're here today.
I know,
It's not all doom and gloom. We're here
not.
to find a way to a brighter future.
Yes.
So, just kind of wanted to tap in with you, human to human.
Yeah.
You said you had an interesting day at the day job today.
Yes.
So if you want to speak on that, more than welcome. But if you want to ignore that completely, totally understandable.
Yeah, I could put it in the rear view. I will just say I do, like all artists, I have a day job and I got to grind. And I did go to school. I had my master's in urban planning. And so for over a decade now, I've worked in economic development. And
Okay.
so I have a very professional type of job during the day, and it requires a lot of attention. And then after, I do my creative stuff,
Okay.
And I find right now, everything seems to be blending into one another. And it's what am I doing what day and what's happening? So this is fun because I get to talk about art and I get to talk about comedy and all the things that are important, but it's so real that we have to pay our bills and get our health insurance.
They don't stop coming.
They don't. As it turns out, they don't. I've tried, and
they
they still keep coming. So,
man,
yeah.
I don't want to subscribe to that anymore, but here we are.
I know.
So I kind of wanted to, I guess, ask a little bit about that because it's so relatable as far as, having to, put food on the table, pay those bills. I think you said something about student loans. Everybody can relate to that.
Yes.
But also, trying to manage and balance that with a creative element and your creative side. How do you feel like you navigate that?
I think I'm trying. I knew that when I first started stand-up. So I started in 2011.
Okay.
So it's been a minute. And I knew I wasn't going to be a starving artist. I just can't. I'm from the Bay. We don't have time for that. Rent is too expensive.
Way too high.
And I'm also a woman, so I'm not going to be sleeping on a couch. You know what I mean? I'm not doing that. I'm not couch surfing, and I'm not doing any of that. So I knew from the beginning, if I was going to pursue this comedy thing, I was going to have to get real. So part of my journey has been paying down credit card debt because I know if I'm about to do this full time, I don't have the luxury of, being able to drop hella money each month into my payments. And so really the last many, many years have been focused on getting my money right, getting myself in a stable position, and then also paying down student loan debt because, my God, it still keeps coming.
Yeah.
And it pays to be smart, my God.
Right.
But it also costs a lot. And so I think for me, I know that my journey is longer because I've chosen this path of having healthcare, of utilizing my master's to be in a career that does require a little bit more work. Because I know a lot of my peers in comedy, they be doing, everyone's doing sort of temporary gig work, like dog walking or catering or things with really flexible schedules that allow you to be up all night. And that's not something I have. And so it's one of those things where I really made a conscious effort in the beginning, I don't want to starve. I want to have my creature comforts, but I also want to be an artist. But I know my path will be long for that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. That's, I guess, the price you pay for
it is.
following your dreams, right?
I know. I wish it was easier,
No,
but
I could definitely relate to that. But I kind of wanted to, I guess, give people a little bit more context because you said a bunch. We know you now as Jackie the comedian.
yes, the comedian.
But you also have this day job and very well educated. So I want to go back a little bit and just give people, I guess, the Cliff Notes life story, 3 or 4, experiences or decisions that kind of took you on your path from as early as you want to start.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, first off, gotta start. Born and raised in Hayward.
Shout
East
out
Bay native.
H-Town.
What's up?
Stack.
And yep, stack. And a twin.
Really?
Yeah, I'm an identical twin.
Okay.
I'm baby B. I'm not bitter. It's okay. I'm adjusted. No,
How
I'm
many
kidding.
minutes late?
28.
Oh, you're taking your
They
time.
didn't know I was there. They had no idea I was there. So do you see why I want to be a comedian? I'm just like, I'm here, everybody.
See me.
I've arrived. I'm here, I promise. And so that's a thing I have to mention because I do feel like my experience as a person is Jackie, me, but I'm so intertwined with my twin. I'm so intertwined with my family. I'm born and raised in the Bay. So I find myself different than a lot of artists in that I have so many familial responsibilities. And I'm a daughter and I have an elderly father that I keep an eye on. And we all do, all of us girls. I have sisters, I'm an auntie, and I have family responsibilities that I find many of my peers in arts don't have that. They're from somewhere else typically. And so I find that is hard because I have to maintain the job, maintain the social life, maintain the family life, maintain the art life, also have a job. And then I gotta sleep. You know what I mean? Like, and I
where's
gotta
the
eat.
time?
I'm
Yeah.
like,
We didn't even
what are
think
we
about
gonna
that.
do? Yeah. So that's the hard part. But you asked for a couple of things. So I always knew when I was a kid, my mom was really big on education. I always knew I was going to go to school. And I went to Mount Union High School, Hayward, California.
Okay,
Shout out, what's
yeah.
up? Homeschool of Mahershala Ali. Y'all might know him.
Hey.
And, home of The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
My God.
Tom Hanks went to Chabot College.
Oh,
See,
now
I'm dropping that.
She's flexing on us now.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of Hayward roots, and I'm
Yeah.
very proud of it. And my parents went to the same high school I went to, so it's one of those things where I'm very proud to be from the Bay, but I also realize that it's kind of a unicorn experience now anyway. You see such a change in our community, and I see somebody in my family that can't even be here anymore because they can't afford.
Right.
So I think for me, the big thing was I wanted to make change. So even when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I literally thought I could be the president of the United States tomorrow. Like I really had that in me that I was like, I could do this. I knew I was going places. And then I went to school, and Cal was an experience. It was a culture shock. I had never been around so many affluent people. I'd never been around so many people that had been exposed to like really great education systems. And I'm from Hayward Unified. What's up? I'm public educated my whole life.
Yeah.
And so adjectives and nouns and preterites and all these things were not things that I really grasped as tightly as so many of my peers who had like private school education. And so it was definitely a culture shock. And I realized I was big fish back at Mount Union, but here I was, sink or swim at UC Berkeley. And so I really learned at that point that I wanted to be part of community. And so my twin sister and I and several of our friends were really active with the Native community at Cal. And it was great. We got to plan the powwow. We were doing all kinds of stuff. So yes, I was studying, but I also felt really drawn to like events and cultural activities. And I found that was a huge influence. And I think that has served me so well in the work that I do now. And then the other piece that sort of guided my direction was I went into the workforce. I went and got my master's at Columbia.
Talk about
Speaking of culture shock, speaking of rich ass people, see Cal, they were all like liberals, and they were all like, we don't want to tell everybody that our dad is the senator.
That's East Coast money.
Yeah, that's East Coast money. They're so proud. So like in Cal, they would be quiet about their money. They didn't want to let you know, oh, I went to this private school and then I did this and my dad owns this company. They didn't want you to know. They dressed bummy just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And you didn't know until someone told you, and like did you know that guy's dad is Microsoft?
Right.
What? And then Columbia was like, do you know how my dad is? You know what I mean? Like Columbia was very much like, oh, I went to Juilliard before I got here. In fact, that was a side note. You know what I mean? Like everything about the way one of my classmates, Barry, he called Obama Barry.
Oh my
like
God.
he had Obama on the first name basis, and he was like, yeah, we'd go to their house for dinner. And I was like, what? There was just this level of of access, basically privilege that I had not known before. And so I really did the whole thing. I did the thing. I went and got the degrees, and then I went and got into like urban planning work and doing it. And it's fine, it's good, but I realized a lot of it wasn't affecting the change that I wanted to see.
Mm.
And I started feeling like a lot of the work I was doing was ending up in a report and ending up on a shelf.
Mm.
And it was a lot of lip service. And I found out that me, was kind of a cog in the whole, we're reaching out to, urban multi-ethnic communities of color, and here goes our people who are doing it. And I just didn't like that. I felt very not okay with pushing these sort of agendas that were meant to be inclusionary and meant to be equitable, but really were forwarding just some other agenda about accomplishing some neighborhood plan change,
Mm.
And so that was one of the big things where I was like finding myself really unfulfilled in
Mm.
my career. And I think that as much it wasn't a decision, it was just something that was happening to me. And I think that's where, like, once the art showed up, it was like moth to a flame.
Yeah.
Like there was I was like, oh, this, bye. You know what I mean? It was just like an
Right.
easy decision. Of course, there's the pay the bills,
Yeah,
but that's a big guiding light that brought me where I'm here. Yeah.
for sure. So before you take us to the art,
Oh, yes.
talk a little bit about, I guess, what inspired you to get into urban planning?
This is so funny. Okay, so I thought I was gonna be a lawyer for a hot second. I thought I was
Mm.
gonna be like native lawyer 101, getting the
Mm.
land back, da da da
Yeah.
da, like making the United States pay.
Mm.
And then I like got a job for the Bar Association of San Francisco, amazing place, Bar Association, but I didn't want to do the law.
Yeah.
I saw that it was paperwork. It was straight up paperwork. It was like it's great and it's wonderful, and I love lawyers. My mother was an attorney. Like I love how they can advocate for people and how a simple letter can get things straightened out real quick with a landlord, with an employer, with an educator. Like there's ways that you can really just let people let them know what you're worth when you have an attorney sort of standing behind you saying you got to help these people. But I also was like, not for me.
Right.
And so I thought I was going to law school. Absolutely not.
Everything ain't for everybody.
Absolutely not. But it was great though. I learned so much about people. I worked for the lawyer referral service and I would get random phone calls. This was like 08, 09, 2010.
Mm.
I was getting random phone calls about people getting their houses foreclosed on. I was getting people being like, there's a sheriff at my door saying, I gotta go. Like it was an intense time. That was the
Right.
recession.
Right.
And so I was really seeing how this country was really screwing over its people.
Mm.
And I just didn't see being an attorney as the way that I could get what I wanted to do. And so it very much redirected me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, do I become a social worker? Or like I was like, I'm gonna go to master's program. What is it gonna be? And I had done urban planning classes at Cal.
Mhm.
And I was like, hey, that's like people, that's community, that's place. That's actually all that I ever want to do.
Yeah.
So urban planning felt like the most natural fit. And it has such utility because I got into urban planning, but I specialized in economic development. And lo and behold, my decade-long career that has been relatively lucrative. And I find myself in a good position, in terms of a roof over my head. It's given me a lot of options. And I will say it's made the most sense for me in terms of like how I want to help people. But again, my calling is absolutely writing, comedy, all of that. So again, there's that little I'm always flirting with comedy and I'm always like, oh, over here,
Yeah.
and we're always getting into each other's way sometimes because of the day job, but it's always the calling and it's always the purpose.
Mhm.
And I think over the years it's become so clear because there was a time when I never even felt comfortable saying I was a comedian.
Mm.
I'd be like, oh, I'll do shows and stuff, but like I would really downplay how important it was to me. I was kind of like, I don't know, blocking my blessings almost,
Mm.
And then there became a time when I got the message, no, this is what you're here to do. And I was like, okay. And now I'm accepting that and like really taking that energy with me into all the work that I do. So I do have the day job and I do enjoy the work, but it's not my calling.
Mhm.
And I'm okay with that. And I don't think that's wrong. I feel
Right.
like people are in day jobs all day, every day, and they may not be that into it,
Mhm.
And so I feel like it's okay acknowledging its limitations and how it's sort of like a tool that helps me do all the other stuff.
Right.
Because that's ultimately what it is, all the other stuff.
That's where
you
you want to
know?
be.
Yeah, exactly.
So you said something interesting that I think people will understand when I say. You said you had a hard time kind of claiming, I'm a comedian, and maybe that can be tied to imposter syndrome or just, fear of being judged for whatever reason. And I think I can definitely relate to that as far as like, I have recently self-proclaimed myself
Okay.
a community organizer
There you go.
because,
All right.
I like pulling people together.
Yeah.
I've noticed myself putting together a lot of different teams for a lot of different projects. So I'm like, there has to be a word for this. And I feel like
Yes.
until I could name it and claim it, I kind of was like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm starting this thing.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of different groups, projects I'm working on, but it felt scattered and messy. But like when you're able to like claim and name something,
Yes.
it kind of, like you said, turns that switch from blocking your blessing into manifesting.
Yes.
So what was that moment for you? Was there like a key, like, day or experience where you're just like, I have to own this. I'm really doing this.
Oh my gosh. You know what it is? It's like so funny. So part of the reason why I didn't feel like I could identify as like a working artist is because I wasn't grinding as hard as a lot of my colleagues.
Mm.
A lot of my peers in comedy, they eat, breathe, sleep comedy, but they're also their lives are positioned in such a way that they have all the time in the world to be doing it. And I knew that I had to like do my 9 to 5, do my family
That's
responsibilities.
a big part of it too.
And our family responsibilities are our cultural responsibilities. They're
Mhm.
not exclusive. They come together, And so I understood that like I was getting up 5 times a week, but I also know that so many of my peers were getting up 5 times a night.
Mm.
And they were grinding and they were grinding. And I thought, oh, I don't feel like I'm putting in as much work as I should be in order to feel like this makes sense to define myself in such a way.
Yeah.
But I got over that because
Yeah.
I realized I was like, that guy getting 5 nights, he's not funny. You know what I mean? Like he has nothing to say. And I'm no disrespect to him, but he's not going to make it. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying there's only so many people that this really is an ongoing career for.
Mhm.
And number one can even be a success, like, because there's so few people who can like do that. And so I find myself really comfortable in a space where I'm doing stand-up, doing writing, doing different types of performances. Like I got to do VO work. Oh my God.
Mm.
I got to do my first ever voiceover work for Netflix for a
Mhm.
cartoon.
Okay.
I played a twin, but it was a seahorse. But still, I got to sing. I got to do all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, it was like the funnest thing. Like
That's
I was in that
awesome.
studio, like, what? Turn my music up. You know what I mean? It was like so fun. And so now I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to do the comedy. I want to do the writing. I want to do the fun characters and the weird voices.
Yeah.
And this is like honoring what's always been here, but I never really had sort of the opportunity to really explore it until now. And it's taken so long to get there.
It's been a slow grind.
Oh my God, it's been
Where,
so
where can we
long.
find? What's the show?
The show is called Spirit Rangers. It's on Netflix. I'm in, I think it's season 3, episode 16.
Okay.
I play Bubble. And I have a twin, and his name is Trouble. And we get into it with the Spirit Rangers. We're actually villains.
Oh.
But we're like cute, sweet cartoon villains.
Seahorse.
Yes, I'm a seahorse. Yeah. And it's cool because it's a native show.
Oh, yeah.
And it's about 3 kids and their parents work at the national park in California. And well, I don't even know if it's in California, but California Indian tribes really influence the storytelling and a lot of the creation stories that they talk about in Spirit Rangers. So you can watch it on Netflix. It is totally out there for everybody. And it's so cool because there was never before, to my knowledge anyway, like a mainstream native cartoon that kids could watch that talked about California Indian stories, And so that's what's so remarkable about it. And so being able, like California Indian myself, I'm Washoe and Paiute, to be able to participate in this and to like have an acting gig and play a sassy seahorse, I was like, okay, done. I was like VO for all day. And it was so cool because I showed up all dumpy, I was like, but I did my work and I got my pay. And I was like, oh, I need to do this forever. Like I was like, get me on a mic. Let's go. I'll play a weird character right now,
I love that. Oh, that's awesome. Make sure you guys go check that out. One more time for the people.
Spirit Rangers.
Spirit
Netflix.
Rangers on Netflix.
Yeah.
Right on. You've been talking a bit about your background and your culture. So you just mentioned the tribes you're from.
Yeah, Paiute and Washoe.
Paiute and Washoe.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about what it was like growing up in California with those roots and how that kind of informs the work you do today?
Yeah, well, I'm totally your classic Bay kid. I'm everything.
Mhm.
So my dad is Native Hawaiian and Native American, so that's where Keliiaa comes from.
Okay.
Because we're Hawaiian. But my grandfather was half Washoe, half Hawaiian, so he was really raised Native. He grew up speaking his language, speaking Washoe. He grew up in Dresslerville, Nevada, And my grandma, my Hootsie, is she was Paiute. And so the two of them met at the Stewart Indian Boarding School in Carson City, Nevada. So Stewart was what brought so many generations of Indian people together. And so it's actually very common to have Washoe Paiute background because those were all the tribes that were in that particular school. And so I always knew, because my dad, like, my dad grew up old school. My dad had me and my twin when he was 40. So he's a little older. And he grew up doing rabbit drives. He grew up doing pine nut picking and hunting deer and all that stuff.
What's a rabbit drive?
Oh, a rabbit drive. So back in the day, this is like not even 100 years ago, but the rabbits are a big part of our diet, the Washoe diet. And for all tribes in that area, Shoshones, Paiutes, it's very common. And so there were so many rabbits in the sagebrush because their populations would get so big. So all the men would line up with their guns, and there'd be little boys at the bottom, and they would do a rabbit drive. And so they would like slowly push their way through the sagebrush, picking off the rabbits, and the little boys would go grab the rabbits, and you'd tuck the rabbits under your belt. And so you'd have a whole belt full of rabbits. My grandpa has a picture. He's all happy. He's like, dinner, and that's how people used to hunt. And they would do rabbit drives. And that was like a very common cultural tradition, but also something you did for food for the community. And so my dad participated in those when he was a kid, but unfortunately there doesn't happen that much anymore because the population of rabbits has dwindled significantly and just our ecosystems have shifted and that kind of stuff. But it's so cool because that's something my dad experienced. And so even though I'm born and raised in Hayward and very much a city kid, such a city kid, I get nervous being in the outdoors too much. I'm like, what was that? What was that? But it still is part of our family history. It's part of our stories. And so it very much influenced me as a kid because I grew up with my grandparents. All my grandparents were in Hayward. My grandparents were powwow vendors. So I spent a lot of time going with them to different powwows. And so I was around a lot of intertribal communities growing up. So we'd go to like Stanford powwow and we'd see our cousins, we'd see friends. And I just kind of knew this sort of, I just knew this community of people who'd been here for a long time in the Bay. And so I very much feel like I had a classic Bay Area Indian experience. And then my mom's side, my mom was Portuguese and Italian, which was a big group here. Like my Azorian family from Portugal came over and settled in Hayward in 1903. So like I can see the land that they used to own and used to run an orchard on, down the street from where I grew up. And so we have a lot of roots here, and I have like almost 5 generations of my family on both sides here in the Bay. And so I feel like I've had a historical memory of this place and what it's been and what it can be. And I do feel very possessive of the Bay story. Like I feel like so many people come to the Bay and are like, this is what the Bay is. And I'm like, you don't even know. From where? What's your reference point? Like I remember like my great grandma was in the 1906 earthquake.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So my great grandma was Italian and her family lived in North Beach where all the Italians lived off of Broadway. And she remembers, she thought like a car, like a truck was driving through because it was so loud. It was the earthquake, the one that like floored much of San Francisco. And so my family has been part of these really remarkable moments in time when the Bay was sort of forming as this, cosmopolitan place and to be what it is today. And so I see these, I have this historic memory in my mind of all the stories my family has told me over the years. And I see how different it is from the place that we know it to be today and how different San Francisco is, all these Waymos, all these tech bros. Ugh, it's wild. Yeah. And so I feel very privileged though to have that experience. But for that reason, I also feel it's important that I have to say what I have to say because there's not many of us left to be able to tell that story. There really isn't.
No, it's real. There's a lot of, transplants and new family, we'll call them, in the Bay Area.
That's so sweet. You call them
right?
family.
I'm trying to be
I'm all outsider,
all inclusive.
Get it together.
They're not like us, but no.
I'm so aggressive. I'm so sorry.
That's that real Bay Area. But
she comes out every now and again.
It's valid because
I still went to Columbia though. No, I'm kidding.
Right? You can play both sides.
I can. Oh my God.
That code switch be real.
Yes.
But it's like I definitely relate to feeling a bit territorial because I have for me, it's about 3 generations on my dad's side.
Okay.
And, that's huge as far as like, for Black folks coming out of the Great Migration and everything, his
Yeah.
family's from Texas, to be able to say y'all been in the same place for now 3 generations,
That's big.
especially like you said, like with the kind of mass exodus with a lot of people that were local earlier in the 2000s being pushed out because of prices
Gone.
and everything.
Yeah.
So that's something I take a lot of pride in for sure, and I can definitely relate to that kind of stingy feeling of like, nah, like,
Yeah.
you know, I still want my side shows. I still want, you know, I wish the Warriors were still
I'm
at
like,
Oracle.
food doesn't slap.
Right? Food does not slap.
Stop it. Who said that? Go away.
I feel actually
Yes.
maybe insanely passionate about that. Maybe
Oh, I
too
do.
far. Maybe a little too far.
I know.
But
I go a little too far. I know I'm
food
being
does not
unreasonable.
slap, y'all. Food smack. If you say it slap, I might slap you.
Yes.
Straight up. But let's reel it back in a little bit. But yeah, I definitely feel where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about the work you're currently working on and what you're most excited about right now.
What I'm most excited about is a TV show that I'm writing.
Talk about it.
So me and a couple friends, we wrote a show and sold it to NBC. Y'all might have heard of it. But we sold it in 2022.
Okay.
And I thought, 'cause I'm new to all this. I'm here in Oakland. I'm writing remote. My friends all live in, Hollywood. And so I feel connected to it, but I also feel so removed because I'm not like a classically trained writer. I didn't get into like a Disney program. Not saying you have to, but I know so many peers in writing that have learned and kind of got their chops that way.
Mhm.
And so I'm OJT. I'm straight up on the job training. And so I will say when I first started developing this show, I feel like I was a little out of my depth. And so I'm writing this show with Sierra Teller Ornelas. She's an amazing writer. She was a showrunner for a TV show called Rutherford Falls, which was basically one of the first native sitcoms.
Mhm.
It came out in 2021 during the pandemic, sadly. And it's on Peacock.
Right.
And then my other friend that I'm writing with is Bobby Wilson. He's a writer and an actor, and he was a main writer on Reservation Dogs on FX. So these folks are just like great, and it's fun writing with other native people because I hadn't done it before.
Mhm.
I would write with like other folks in the Bay. I would write with everybody. I have never really taken time to like sit down and like work through things with other native people with different experiences. They're different tribes. Some are urban, some are, you know what I mean? It's just like a different vibe, but it's been so fun. So we sold this show in 2022
Nice.
and we survived all the cuts because they shut down a lot of good shows during
Yeah,
that
that was
during
the
that
whole
like after the
SAG-AFTRA
strike
and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That strike. So we've survived and we're kicking
Yeah.
and it's just been such a fun experience. We write in the little sort of random pockets of time in our lives. So we're like doing our day jobs and then we like hop on Zoom for a few
Asynchronous
hours.
work and stuff.
Uh-huh. On Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then we also have to like write our own stuff independently. So I've been writing since October.
Yeah.
And I'm tired, but also I feel like I've learned so much and I'm really starting to see what good writing is. And I feel like it's really helped me even when I'm watching TV shows. I'll be watching TV shows that I love and I'll go, oh, I see how they did that. Look at that act break. These are things that I would have never thought about before. Like
What's
there's
an
like act
break?
I know, right? So like in a show, like a typical, especially in American comedy, there's act 1, 2, and 3. So it's usually like, here's your situation that's happening. And then something goes crazy. Then you spend act 2 resolving it or trying to, and then act 3, you finally resolve it. So it's like you put a little button on your episode, you little bow. And then you have what are called act breaks where it's like the big dun 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 and now commercial break. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm learning all this stuff and I'm learning that like each episode typically has a couple stories. There's the A story, the primary story. Then there's the B story. There's like a secondary thing happening with other characters. And so I never really spent a lot of time looking at the formulas. And now it's in I recognize patterns really easily. I learn very fast because of that. And so I'm like, oh, we got it. I'm figuring it out. And so it's really cool to be in a room with these very experienced, incredibly talented writers and to also be contributing and seeing some of my jokes make it into the final cut. Like, I love that. I'm like, oh, that's my joke, you
I
know.
love that.
But it's like our joke. I'm learning that because I'm a stand-up. So I'm on stage by myself all day, every day. I write myself, I edit myself, I produce myself. And so being in a room with people and engaging in sort of the collaborative, like that is cool. I never really played in the sandbox like that. And so I'm seeing now that it is all of our work. You know, it is like this very communal sort of collaborative
Yeah,
effort.
we like get tweaks or something like, what if you phrase it like this or have the punchline be this instead and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And someone will say that. They'll be like, hey, Jackie, I have a pitch for this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you know,
That's cool.
and it's very fun. So I'm really excited about that. Hope it works out. But I
No,
also learned this industry is like built out of sand.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's something and sometimes it's not. But it's something that just really has woken me up artistically. Like I'm not being able to get up on stages often because I'm writing so much in the evenings, but I'm learning so much and it's actually helping me with my joke structure on stage. I'm like, oh, let's edit that. Let's get there quicker.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. Like, it's like, let's get there quicker. Let's enter the scene amidst all the stuff happening as opposed to being like, then we do this, then we
Yeah.
do that. You know, like it's very much making whatever the story is you want to tell get right up in your face and happen now. Because that's what people want to see. They want
Yeah.
to see the dynamic. They want to see the funny. So yeah, that's the thing I'm most excited about. But we won't know when
Well,
this airs.
is there
but hopefully
anything
we'll
you
know.
can tell us about premise or, name or where you're hoping to take it? Or
I
is it
think I
still
can talk
kind of
about
under
this.
wraps?
Yeah, we can talk about this.
For sure.
Right? I talked about this on the podcast, my own. So it's called City Indians. It's a 30-minute mockumentary comedy, sort of like Parks and Rec.
Okay.
And but it takes place, it's like a workplace comedy that takes place in Oakland.
Okay.
It's an Oakland Indian Center. And it's all the coworkers that like work together. And I may or may not be a lead character
Okay.
acting in it. If it happens.
No, knock on wood.
This is wood, right? Yeah, this is real wood. This is not MDF. But yeah, and so that would be, oh my God, to be able to tell the Bay story from a Native perspective, shut up. That's what
That
I'm here
would
to
be
do.
awesome.
That's like my calling, you know?
Yeah.
And so when I got asked to develop this so many years ago, because we started talking about this in 2021, I think. So to be in 25 right now and to see how long it takes to like make it up the hill, you get really excited when you see things like Abbott.
Yeah.
For example, Abbott is a
Crushing it.
blast.
Yeah.
And you just like, and the fact like Quinta's been selling shows forever.
And can we just talk about,
Yes.
how they got the best commercial in the world just yesterday?
Oh
with
yeah.
The
Yes.
Eagles
Go
delivering.
Eagles. Go
Go Eagles.
Eagles.
Go Abbott. Go Philly. Shout out
Yes,
y'all.
go Philly. I didn't realize they were going to tear up
Yeah,
that town.
right.
Oh my God. I was watching Instagram and I was like, wow, they walked off with a pole. Like, they just like took
Just
down
out
the
the ground.
streetlights. They're like, boop, 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 boop.
So this is my city now.
Yeah, exactly. But
So yeah, to be able to do something like that for Oakland and the Bay Area, I think would be really awesome. Because you're starting to see us. I was thinking about this
Yes.
like kind of when Black Panther hit the scene, and that opening credit where it's
oh
like,
my God.
Oakland
And it's all-
19 whatever, and
Yeah.
it's like in the 80s, 90s, even early 2000s. That's always New York. Or that's always San
Yes.
Francisco if it's in the Bay
Mhm.
Area. And to see Oakland starting to get that shine and, stuff that Boots Riley is doing with the I'm a Virgo.
Yes.
Stuff like that is like really starting to see Oakland, I think, get its just dues in pop culture.
Yes.
So it couldn't be more timely, but we're
Yeah.
definitely rooting for you.
Yeah, no, I would love it. And I think another thing too is like the the Native story, I think, is finally sort of being told at a national and also international level. Because like for a long time, it was just like Last of the Mohicans, Dances with Wolves, and it was always some white man telling a story about some Indians, and it was bad, and it was all written by like white people. And so, but it was all we had. So we loved it. And we're like, Magua, yes.
We'll take it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'll take it. And then you see shows like Reservation Dogs, like they are flipping the script. They are changing the way Americans are understanding the Native experience. And it's really valuable to have shows like that, Rutherford Falls, and even a local writer, Tommy Orange. He wrote a book called There. I think it published in 2018, but he blew up and he was like, oh, hometown hero, what's up? Born and raised in the Bay, wrote a book about the Bay Area Indian experience. When I read that, I cried. I was like, oh my God, like this is us, and I had never seen, it's always a conversation about Native folks on a reservation, which is a real experience. But I'm also like, where's the Bay experience?
like
Where's
where?
the urban experience? And I can speak to that. And books like There and his subsequent novel, Wandering Stars, really brought light to this story. And so I think it's time. I feel like it's time for like an urban Indian story.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. That's what I love about it. It's so funny. I was like, wow, we did this. Like I'll just be, when we're reading our script.
Yeah.
So
No, we can't wait. We're, like I said, really, really rooting for you guys. Hopefully it gets to
hopefully.
prime time. You said NBC?
Yeah, it would be
That would
network.
be huge, man. That would
Yeah,
be
I'm
awesome.
afraid. I'm like, am I jinxing it? Ugh.
No,
But we've been
you're
sitting on this for so
manifesting it,
long.
speaking it to existence. If
Yeah.
you made it 4 or 5 years, that's got to be like halfway.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like
Yeah.
we're still kicking.
You know,
I got a check recently. I cashed it. So
They
something's
gon-
happening.
something.
Something is real.
That's facts. No, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so switch gears a little bit. You've kind of been alluding to it, I think, but I'm kind of curious. A question we always like to ask here on Finding a Way is, what is your vision for a brighter future?
This is the question that I knew was going to stump me.
And that's okay.
Because I'm a bit of I know that I'm a bit of a glass half empty type of gal. So sometimes when I'm like, man, the world sucks, it's going to stay sucking. But I do envision a future where people are true to themselves. And it's hard to say this because I see our current everything and everything about what's happening right now
The
feels very
polycrisis.
contrary to what I'm saying. But I have little nieces. They just turned 8. They're twins. They're the best. And I see this like hope in them. And I see this light in them. And I feel like they're going to do something. And I feel like I'm happy to pave the way. Whatever you need me to do to set it up, I'll set it up. But I need you to follow it through. So it's kind of like we're all playing a big game of soccer and I'm ready to assist. But it's going to be a multi-year assist.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have to like get it over the, we're going to have to make it happen and then kick the Nazis out. So
At
a
the
side
end of the
note.
day, should be the first note.
That should be the first note. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's hard because we have so much work to do. It's hard to feel optimistic.
It can feel daunting.
It can feel really daunting. But I do see, like, I hate to be cheesy, but I do see hope in the future generations. And I want to do everything I can to make it easy for them. And I'm realizing the message that I'm getting from the universe lately is I got to take care of myself. Because I stay going. I stay, oh, we got this, we got that, oh, we got that, and I'm not able to fill anyone's cup if I can't fill my own first. And so I'm really getting the message about health and wellness, and comedy is such a grind culture. Go, go, go. You sick? Who cares? Just keep going. Like, push yourself into the ground. That's how you get it. And that's the old school mentality. And like I chose not to be a starving artist, I'm also realizing I have to make a conscious decision about not being a sick artist. That's like always pushing myself into the ground, always putting what I need at the back, because work takes more importance. And so I'm seeing how capitalism has its hands in the way that I have viewed productivity. And I'm realizing, that's how I hurt myself. And that's how I stop myself from being able to do what I do. So if I do want to like do the assist and pave the way for the next generation, I also have to walk the walk too. So there's that.
No, it's real, because there's a lot of pressure, especially when you're doing something that is unconventional, entrepreneurial, where you kind of have to be the self-starter. It's like you said, when you were earlier in your career, feeling like you're not putting in the amount of work that others might be putting in. So it's like that competition factor, there's that self-pressure, and it can quickly lead to burnout, in which case you can do absolutely nothing. So it's like, why would you? It's counterintuitive, right? Like, if you go so hard that you burn yourself out, then you actually have to like stop, as opposed to, let me just slow down a little bit, do something that's a little bit more sustainable, and make those consistent strides forward. But you said something that I think was really, really beautiful and wonderful, and most people, I think, should think like this. I think most people do, but not everybody maybe has the privilege to always execute. But kind of like you said, like paying it forward for the next generation is something that I think as a whole, us as people have lost sight of, whether you want to look at the climate crisis or, just not even going to go.
I know, we're like, let's not get too deep.
But, it's like we are so kind of focused on getting ours, or the short term of making sure that whatever we're trying to get out of life is happening, that we often forget about. If you can keep the light behind your niece's eyes, you're doing a great job.
Yes.
As opposed to, maybe trying to shower them with material goods or whatever the case may be. Just, setting them up for taking it to wherever they can take it is, I think, the most important job. How do you manage and, make sure that you are taking care of yourself? Because it's not the easiest thing to do. Yeah. Do you have like any practices that you recommend for anybody, or daily habits, or
I'm trying because I'm finding that I haven't been. I've been finding like I'm in my 30s and the end of my 30s.
The 30s is when they hit you, though.
And it's like health, like my knees are saying things. My back is like, there's all these different, like my body and my mind are sending signals and I'm not listening to them. I'm acting like I'm 20 and I'm acting like I don't need sleep. We got this. And I can't. You just, my body, nope, and it's happened a couple of times because with good medicine, I don't only, we'll get into that, but with when I produce comedy shows, I'm the producer, I'm the stage manager, I'm booking all the vendors,
wearing all the hats,
I'm running the comedy show, and I'm also performing, like too many things. And so I've been doing it all myself for so long, but it's not healthy. And so I've hit a couple of walls, and my twin sister will confirm because I'll be calling her, right before the show, and she'll be like, all right, calm down. Did you eat? No. All right, I'm bringing you food. So she had to like come in, and I've had friends come in and help out because when I'm doing my thing, I forget to eat.
Right.
And I'm doing my thing, I forgot to drink water. And then I'm like, oh my God, why do I feel so terrible? And it's one of those things where it's just the basics. I'm talking food, water, sleep. And those things are challenging for me. So I'm coming to realize where I am in life right now that I need to be really thoughtful and intentional. So I have a go bag before a show. So I've got my liquid IV so that I can hydrate. I've got a little fan because I start to get a little anxious. And so I have a little fan, and I like let my makeup set so it's not like dripping off my face. And then I have to eat. I always got to have food. So I got snacks, I got chomp bars, I got protein shakes, I got all this stuff because I may or may not have remembered to eat before this big show. And so I got to be able to like knock this shake out real quick and get a couple 200 calories with like so many grams of protein. Like, so I'm learning about how to take care of my body. I think this whole time I've been treating my body and myself as a succulent, and it turns out I am like an orchid. Like I need the temperature just perfect. I need like steam and an angle of the sun. Just
don't move me too fast.
Yeah, and I've been treating myself like and then so I'm like, so I'm really getting the message from my body, from my mind. We got to not be doing this anymore. Like we're too old for this. And like I said, I don't want to send a message to my nieces that this is what you have to do in order to accomplish, in order to be good. And I will say, I'm really grateful that there are so many artists out there that are dissing the grind culture. They're saying no more, not going to happen. And you see these artists like Stavros Halkias is a very funny comedian. He blew up in the pandemic. Like he was doing well, but this fool, like he can travel the country and just sell out tickets like that. And he's very successful. He took a year off. He stopped drinking. He stopped doing drugs because you can do that easy in comedy. I don't, but like it's an environment where all your vices come right at you. You're offered free fried food every time you perform. You're offered free drinks, whatever you want. And so he took an entire year off. Like he stopped making money. He was like, I'm getting really unhealthy. I feel like I'm going to die if I keep doing this. And so it's wonderful to hear comedians who are at the top of their, blowing up, and they're saying, I'm good. I'm going to stop touring. I can't do this. Trixie Mattel, an amazing drag queen, she also was like, I'm done. I can't do this. And she like had a mental situation go on where she had to take a break. She like got off the internet, like got off of everything, because if you get so into this, it'll be your everything. You're like, I got to get that reel out. Otherwise, no one's going to like me and I'm not going to be relevant anymore. Like there's so many different ways in which you can get pulled into this, and you feel like your only purpose is to put out content. And at the end of the day, I'm an artist. So I try hard not to get into it, but I also sometimes get regrets. Like I see people who are a couple years into comedy and they have 15,000 followers on Instagram, 30,000 followers on Instagram, 55,000, and I go, damn, like I've been writing longer than you, but at the same time, they're putting that work in that I refuse to put in. So again, I know my wins are different because I don't know a lot of people selling shows at NBC. You know what I mean? So
pick a path.
That's my whole point. Like I know that my wins and my gains and all those things will be different. But yeah, I'm getting the message. I got to calm down. I got to learn how to balance it. So I'm learning now about what I need. And honestly, sleep, like taking time for myself, resting. I don't rest very well because I feel like I got to be doing something. And so I have to like learn how to like
just accept it, right? Like there's nothing that needs to happen right
surrender to the
now.
moment.
Yeah, presence.
It's hard.
It's really difficult. I find myself, I've been trying to, I guess, improve my meditation practice. And I find myself noticing, because it's only been like maybe once a week recently. Like
Good.
I'll say
No, that's good.
in this calendar year, I've probably only meditated like 3 times.
Hey.
But every time I sit, I notice, I'm like, this is actually the first time this week that I've, paid attention to how my body feels, or, how my breathing is. And I'm just like actually, just sitting with it. And I notice all these other, invasive thoughts coming through,
yeah.
like, oh, you got to make sure you do this. Don't forget to text so-and-so. And I'm like, I'm trying to carve out 30 minutes here just to like not think about that stuff. But your brain is so hardwired to just kind of keep doing stuff, keep going. So it's like, you have to really be intentional about it.
You do. And I'm getting to a point where I'm like, oh, I'm going to be like Stavros and take a year off. I can't take a year off, but I do want to get to a point where I'm like, I'm not doing anything the month of August. Because there are artists that get to a point where they're like set up and they got the thing going and they're going to have a no nothing on this month.
Yeah.
And I'm really like admire artists who can have those boundaries. That's what it is. I have no boundaries. I got no boundaries at work. I'm like, all right, sure. Like someone will message me and I'll be like, okay. Like I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah.
I don't think, is this in alignment with my mission?
You gotta have
I don't
that
think,
filter.
am I getting fucking paid? Like I don't think about these things. And then I'll be on my way to do it and be like, wow, I should have asked that. So that's another thing too. If you want to be an artist and you want to do this thing, you have to set up some boundaries with yourself too.
Yeah.
Because that's the hardest part. I have boundaries with other people, but I break them with myself so easy. And that's the hard part. But I think it's wonderful that you're doing meditation, because that's another piece too. I started meditation maybe like, I don't know, really for real, like maybe like 2 years ago. But I only reach for it when I really need it. And I should start reaching for it as like a daily practice, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I was just having a moment. And then I would normally let it get to me and change the whole way that I view the day. Like I'll be in a funk about something, and then there might be like a moment where I go, okay, let's meditate for 10 minutes. I got the Calm app. I'll put on a little thing. Okay. Guided meditation. And I'll be like, oh, I think I was just pissed off. Okay. And then it's like, oh, I gave myself time to process and feel that emotion, and now it's gone.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I don't process.
Right. We like to just keep going.
Yeah.
And hang on to stuff. Like something I think that meditation has helped me with is like not owning the thought or owning the emotion, right? So it's like if something's bugging you, what I've started to say is like, instead of saying, oh, I'm mad about this, you have to like really be intentional with the words in your thoughts. Like, I am feeling upset about this. Like, I'm not mad. Like, I'm not an angry person on the day-to-day basis, but it's like, this is a feeling that is a response to some sort of experience. So it's like when you kind of detach yourself from owning the emotion or the thought or whatever, I think that's something that's been really helpful for me.
No, that's great. That's something I'm figuring out myself, because like emotions can be hard. Like I don't like sitting with uncomfortable emotions. Like I really hate it. I was like, oh, no wonder I'm a comedian. I'm like, let's stop talking about bad stuff. Anyway, so, and I'm like, let's change the topic. I'm learning too to like,
you gotta sit with
the discomfort. Oh, I hate it. I have a therapist and she'd be like, you're not going to like this. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she'd be like, just going to have to sit there and feel it. I'm like, no, I'll do my taxes rather than feel my feelings. I promise you, I will today.
Jackie,
give me a spreadsheet. I'll find a way to get distracted,
Speaking of taxes, man, 'tis the season. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Oh my God.
I have added another layer of complexity to my taxes.
Let's hear it.
Shout out to this podcast. So,
okay, what's up?
Me and my partner Michael started this podcast, and we were like, let's just start a media company while we're at it.
Do it.
And we did. It was been wonderful. Taxes have not. So
taxes are crazy.
Now we have a double pass through. I've had 3 tax appointments in the last 2.5 weeks.
Oh my God.
Because I scheduled like an hour, it's H&R Block. It's like, let's knock this out. You're professionals, right? So the first one, I'm like, okay, I actually need to have my partner here. And they're like, all right, bet. So I call Michael, we go back for a second one. And we have, this complex structure. So the lady that we're dealing with calls in like
phone a friend.
Right? Phone a friend. And she calls the other tax guy. It's this OG guy. He looks like the guy from Up. He's really, I'm not going to say adorable, but he's cool. And he comes over and he's like, oh, yeah, you got to do it like this. And we're like, well, actually, no, we have this business structure. And he's like, oh, well, that. And then the other lady comes in. So it's like 3 tax professionals,
So you
me and
stumped
Michael,
them. You stumped them
all in this
all.
little cubicle
Yeah.
on a Friday night trying to
Oh,
figure out
no.
how we do this.
That's how you know
We
you're
finally got it
passionate.
wrapped up today, but man, it's like when you said the T word, I just got triggered immediately.
No, it's a lot. So that's the thing too about being an artist. People don't talk about.
Right. The
And
business side of
No
things.
one talks about the business side of things.
Yeah.
Like this whole time I've been a sole proprietor,
Mhm.
and my friend was like, "You don't have you don't
like,
have an
"Don't
S
do
corp
that."
yet," and I was like, "No," and she goes, "You know, you could lease a car and like put it under your S corp," and I was like, "What?" You know, like
At
there's
least
all
get
these.
you an LLC.
Yeah, they were like, "Get an LLC. Do you know how liable you are right now?" And I was like, "I don't know." You know, so that's the thing that people don't talk about. I thought I was good. I have a tax guy. He
Mhm.
does my stuff, but like for the first time, I had to do 1099s.
Yeah.
Oh my God. See, everyone's all,
So,
boring
yeah.
conversation now. But like, it's true. Because like when you pay someone $600 or more, you got to do a 1099. And this is the paperwork that no one wants to talk. This is the unsexy part of being an artist is that like, if you want to collaborate with people, if you want to work with people, you got to pay them.
Mhm.
And it's just one of those things where no one talks about this. And
Right.
I feel like this is the sort of fluency that all artists should have. There should be like a free place you can go to where they're like, oh, you need to know about taxes. Here's a structure we recommend. Because I did try to get an S corp,
Mhm.
and I consulted with a tax guy, and he was like, you're not making enough money. He was like, it's going to actually cost you more money to run your S corp than it is for you to have, you know. So he was like, right now I recommend sole proprietor until you hit this level. Once you hit that, come see me.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like one of those things where some people will incorporate right away and they got nothing. And now they have all these fees. And now they have all these maintenance fees. Sorry, not you, other people. But I'm just saying you got to be really talking to your friends about this kind of stuff, you know, because no one talks about money and we have to.
We really need
because I'm learning. I've just found out. I was casually talking to my friends. I was like, hey, do you guys got like a high yield savings account? They're like, yeah. And I was like, wait, and then they were like, you don't got one? And I was like, no, when did we get the memo on this?
Everybody watching right now, if you do not have a high yield savings account, you're playing yourself.
I've been playing myself for years. You don't even want to know.
So it's literally just so, you know, just to give people
Yeah.
a little information. If you have a regular savings account, you're going to get like 0.01% maybe. And that's annually.
Interest, yeah. Mhm.
Interest annually. If you have a high yield savings account, you're looking at somewhere between 4.5 and 5%, which is night and day, truly. So like you'll start getting monthly interest payments if you just put a little money in there. So
Yeah.
if you can do math, it's like $1,000, you would get like what?
I'm bad at math.
Me too.
This is not me.
Y'all can do math.
But you'll make money. Basically,
It'll be
your money will
more
make
than
money.
what you're getting right now if you don't have one. So
Yeah.
if you're in front of a computer, high yield savings account, knock it out. It takes like 2 seconds. Make money with your money.
I have to do this. This is on my to-do list. My
Yeah.
tax lady has been telling me to get a high yield savings account for like 6 months. And I'm like, I want to sit down and get the right account. I think I just have to do it.
You gotta just do it.
I just got to do it. Because
There's
it's
a lot
been
of-
like, no joke. Like, it's been sitting
Yeah.
there. And I'll get like 3 cents, you know, from Chase. And I'm
Right.
like, what am I doing? But it's just because, anyway. But that's a really good tip because a lot of people don't have this.
Yeah.
And I never knew. Some of my friends are playing the stock market, which is basically like legal lotto.
Legal gambling.
And yeah, it's legal gambling. And they were like, oh, you don't have, you know, stock shares? And I was like, no. So I just feel like people really should be having these conversations because I think I'm too damn old to be finding out about high yield savings accounts.
Come on, Columbia.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like these people know. That's what I'm saying. The literacy, because that's how rich people make money. They just take all their money and put it into more money, and then their money just keeps making money. And I was like,
Compound.
oh, that's how they do it.
Yeah. But it definitely, to your
Yeah.
point, it takes, you know, conversation, it takes community, whether it's trust.
because you don't want to be telling everybody your business,
right,
You know. Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to have a select few where you guys can talk about these kind of things because, yeah, my sister's the one who put me onto the high yield savings account. So
I
it's
just
like,
learned about it, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I gotta get on it. Everybody and their mom has been doing it, and I was just like new to it, you know. So no, that's good. Well, good you. See, you got a high yield savings account, and you
I'm
got
trying.
multiple tax professionals.
They taxed
in
me
your
on that
corner.
too, by the way.
Oh, do they really?
They do.
Damn.
Like,
Wait,
if
what?
you're-
They tax you on the games?
They tax you on the games.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway.
This is America, y'all.
Yeah, this is America. You can't breathe. Oh, tax. Yeah.
Give it
Oh, did
5
you take a
years,
sip of that
man.
tea? Tax.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question I like to ask everybody once again. So if you are president of the world, like it's on you.
Ooh.
What is one thing that you hope that we can find a way to do as a society? We can figure it out.
Okay. So first off, a lot of pressure.
know,
But okay, so
president of the
I'm the
world.
president of the world. Hi, president of the world. So we're taking out these people. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Start where everybody starts.
Yeah,
Get rid
start
of
with
those guys.
Elon. Number one. No, I'm kidding. Am I? And but I really would love to see us get back to traditional food systems.
Talk about
And
this, please.
this is okay. So eggs, y'all, the bird flu, all this stuff, like the amount of like listeria outbreak, E. coli outbreak with vegetables. I had organic carrots and they made me sick. Like, how is an organic carrot gonna get you? You know, like how, but that's how toxic our food systems are right now. That like these things that are otherwise healthy and should be great for you and come from the earth are toxic because of the way, because of the way that we are farming and the way that we are, you know, they got crops right next to cattle and all the antibiotics and anyway, all these chemicals and all these things. I think we just got to get back to old school ass farming, old school ass like subsistence farming and foods, because the way we're doing it now, we're killing ourselves. And the people who got sick off of like listeria, E. coli, all that stuff, some of them died, and that is not okay. And that's like a crime, like a straight up crime that the USDA and all of these agribusinesses are just getting away with scot-free. And it's like, you guys have poisoned the way we eat. And God, can you imagine 100 years ago being able to like drink out of a creek? Shut up. Like water used to be cool. Water used to be drinkable. You know, like I just think about how you could just go out and like hunt a buck and then you got dinner, you know, and obviously there's work involved in it. And obviously it's like something you have to learn, but the way we're doing it now is just gross. And I just, you know, the way that we are handling our animals and our food, it's like we're setting ourselves up to be poisoned, unfortunately. And it's happening. We're seeing it. All the recalls I keep getting, I'll be like, oh, we got potatoes now. You know, it's like a new thing. And I'm like, what is safe? And so I think I, being the president of the world, will be like, all right, we cutting it out with these cow situations. Some cows are going over there. Some chickens are going over there. We're going to figure this out. And we're going to have to like embrace old school practices, because like all these diseases and things are not new, but the sheer mass amount of industrialized meat production is what's making it so disgusting. And also like you're eating this animal that has had the most sad life. Don't get it wrong. I love a burger. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like, I'm not too good to like have a burger or like some bacon, but I also know that I just don't have the money to be buying all these like grass-fed yada yada, you know. And I feel like I lived in England for a period of time, and I will say they do have such better food systems than we do. Everything.
Where were you in London or in England?
I was in a place called Reading. Yeah, it's like 45 minutes outside of London.
North?
Just west. Yeah. So like it was cool. It was more metropolitan. And I was out there. I was working for a district council. And which is kind of like a county. I've always worked for the government, even in England. And but I remember being like going to the grocery store, and I would look at a product, and it would be like milk, eggs, butter, whatever. And it would just have like 3 ingredients. It didn't have like dye number 5. And I was like, wait a second. And they were just so stringent on what should be beef, what should be milk, what should be eggs. They didn't play. And I actually lost weight just being there. Well, first off, we got portion control issues, okay? We do. You know. But just the sheer amount of preservatives that I see in all of our foods here, and all the random ways that they're like cooking up. Oh, we got a new chip that won't make you fat. You know, like there's all this, like nothing is what it was. Whereas I find in England, they demand a certain level of quality that unfortunately we're not being able to get away with because of these lobbyists who are just inundating and trying to increase shelf life on stuff so they can make it yesterday and feed it to someone 10 years down the line. You know, and I just remember being like, damn, they do got that figured out here. I mean, you know, everything else terrible. No, I'm kidding. The peas are mushed, but they are peas, you know. So that's one of the things where I would love to see our food systems get back on track, because 100%. So that's me, president of the globe. And then I would just want people to be more happy. I think like this grind culture, all this, like go play, go have fun. And then also Americans. Oh, that's another thing about England. So here's the thing that tripped me out. When I started my job, just day 1, I got 6 weeks leave. 6 weeks. I could take them right then and there. There was no There was no what do you call it, probationary period.
Yeah.
Because I've worked at places
to, like,
where they give
build
you
it
a
up.
6-month, 8-month
Yeah.
probationary period. You can't do nothing until you pass this period.
Yeah.
So I got there, and in the month of August, all my coworkers left.
Holiday.
Everybody was gone. My boss was like, "Do not contact me. I have a life. Goodbye."
Yeah.
And I remember like my first like week, I was like at 5:30, I was like, boop, boop, boop. They were like, "Oh my God, you're so American."
Yeah.
And they were like totally shaming me because I was so productive. And they were like, "Get a
It's like,
life."
shut
And
it
I was like,
down,
"Oh,
man.
okay."
Like, let's go to the
So
pub.
I mean, they don't have it all figured out. Trust me, they have the royal family, but they do have certain things figured out where like they're not so like, this is my life, this is my only purpose in the world.
Yeah.
And they have family leave. If you have a baby, you get a year off. They got
Love your
programs where you
baby.
can learn how to like teach your kid how to talk and walk. Like they have so many resources. I mean, it's taxed heavily, so
Yeah.
the cost of living is much higher, but I do feel like certain quality of life can be better when it
Right.
comes to food and leave, like vacation time and also like parental leave whenever you have a kid. So that was stuff that I was like, oh, so I
Nice.
really am American.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, what am I doing here? It's already dark out. I'm the only nerd in here, and I'm the cleaning crew's here. What am I
Yeah.
doing? And I was like, oh, I have a problem.
It's a different culture.
Yeah, but you have someone shaming you. Here,
Right.
they're like, go, keep going. Look at you burning the midnight oil. Yes, you know, the cleaning staff on a first name basis. That's because you're a winner. And it's
Yeah.
like, ugh,
No, it's-
terrible.
I spent a little bit of time in the UK as well. I went
Oh,
to
cool. Where
school.
were you?
I was in Hatfield, so also a tiny little town.
Hatfield? What were you doing
North.
in Hatfield?
School.
Oh, school? Where school? What?
Hertfordshire, University of
Oh
Hertfordshire.
my God, Herefordshire like the cattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that note, they had a
Speaking of the
farm
cattle.
out there. Like,
Yes.
so you could see, like, at least I told myself this is where my steaks and my burgers were coming from, because like they
Yes.
had like a whole like I forgot what the park name was, but like this huge park you can kind of walk around, and if you're not careful or not paying attention, they often have like cattle go in there and graze. So
Yeah.
I would see, tons of cows, and like you said, it's like the produce just felt like it was a lot more local.
Oh,
As
yeah.
opposed to like here, you're shipping stuff from Lord knows where. And I think that's something that we, like you said, should get back to. Like if we focus more on local supply chains, not just like farmers markets, but actually like,
Right.
you can still do it at scale. Like if you're going to be Safeway or Walmart or whoever you want
Right.
to be, but when you have the resources, you have the factories, you should at this point, I think, start shifting to a more localized model, because you're killing yourself with shipping costs and stuff anyway, and your produce is not going to be as fresh, or your fresh meats are not going to be as close to kill, and it's just like you said, it's a negatively impacting our health
Oh, it's like
from the
poisonous.
gate. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say, like in England, like cows are roaming. You're just walking
They're
around
just-
as a cow. There's a pig. There's like goats and shit. And I think it's because they are an agricultural kind of community, like back in the day.
Yeah.
So I think there's just a heritage of that, and they would be probably very disgusted if they were to see the meat lots that we have in the United States. And they probably, as a community and country, would be like, we're not
I'm
doing
not
that.
eating that.
Whereas we're
yeah.
like, oh, it's cheap.
And then we
So
inject the sugar in it, so we think ours is better because it tastes so good. But like
yeah.
that burger over there is actually probably way, way better for you.
So what was Hatfield like for you?
Hatfield was a lovely change of pace for me, because
Oh,
I'm a
okay.
city boy also,
Okay.
but I think I have like just overstimulation or something like that. I'm
yeah.
sick of being like, I worked in downtown Oakland for the last like 18 months, and I can't stand it.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's just you come off of BART, and it's like you're just bombarded with smells and sounds and chaos. I'm just
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah, especially
was-
that downtown spot when you just come up the
and you're like, you don't know what's gonna happen first thing
Yeah.
out the escalator. But Hatfield was just like peaceful. It was a lot slower. It's like literally just the college. So it's like in the summertime, the population cuts in half in the city. It's not even a city; it's a town.
Wow.
They said in UK you have to have a cathedral to be a city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like a little village.
Right. So Hatfield
Yeah.
very much little village.
That's cool
But-
though. I will say I do like I loved the pubs.
Mm-hmm.
How it was like very open to like kids and families and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like that's a third space we don't really have here in the United States.
Right.
It's like either you're like going hard on drinking or you're not,
Yeah,
or
there's
you're a
not
coffee
a lot
shop.
of like multi-generational community space.
Yeah. There are some things that I miss about it. I do say too that because things are so expensive,
Mm-hmm.
I found a lot of my peers just investing in higher quality stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like they'd have like a nice purse, but they would just have it forever.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that fast fashion thing that we are obsessed with here.
Yeah.
The new this, the da 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 da. They didn't have like the same seasonal stuff that we have, you
Right.
know?
I think that kind of speaks to the culture as well, too, because we're talking about, because America once was an agricultural based
Yeah.
land. So it's like we have this obsession with innovation and pushing the cutting edge. And I think they have a lot more closer ties, but also just more respect for heritage and, things that last.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean the royal family has their own like approval of certain qualities of things, and so
Mm.
I think there's just a culture of like things that last and mend and make do, and there's just like this culture of it's just less materialistic.
Yeah.
Like I remember at Christmas, I was like, "Oh, this is all y'all got?" Like I just was I was like, "Oh,
Not tree shaming.
I know, no, totally." And I remember one time, oh my God, this is hilarious. So I might have been out there because of a man. Terrible idea. Don't recommend.
Love will
But
do it. Love will do
I
it.
know, right? But there was a hot second I was like, well, let me make them Thanksgiving. Because I was like, this is so weird. They've never eaten it before. They don't know nothing. And so I like made Thanksgiving dinner and I thought it was nothing. I was like, a couple dishes, a little bird, boom, boom, boom. And they were like, oh my God, this is so much food. And I was like,
Yeah.
y'all have no idea. Like this is a
This is like
minuscule to
a
your compared
fraction,
to your
right?
American boo, 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 And I remember they were just like, they kept commenting on like, wow, this is so much food and this is so rich and oh my God. And I was
Yeah.
like, y'all don't even know. Like
It's
it's just different.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very they appreciate the small things and we're just so obsessed with like quantities and
More,
portions.
bigger.
And, yeah, no, we
Yeah.
are. And I remember like, oh my God, I remember one time I went to a restaurant. It was I think it was Pizza Hut. I just was like craving something American.
Yeah.
And there was like a Pizza Hut in town. And it was like to get 2 personal pan pizzas and a soda. I remember they was offered free refills. And I was like, oh my God, we got free refills. Because they don't do that. They don't do that in the UK. You get one drink, that's your drink. You don't get to, top it up.
Yeah.
And so I remember I was like, oh, the Pizza Hut lets you refill. Let's go. It was like $50 US for like an American dinner.
Yeah.
And it was like a small pan pizza. I was like, so we just like they have it, but we are set up so that it's like so much cheaper, but we're constantly going and using and making it happen. So, but I don't want everyone to think that the Brits know everything because they don't. Trust me,
Right.
they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are some things that other people are doing a lot better, and I think food systems is one of them.
100%. You briefly touched on Good Medicine.
Oh yeah.
I want to make sure people know what that is and
Yes.
what's coming up and how people can get involved.
Yeah, so Good Medicine Comedy is a show that I run. I started it in 2020 during the pandemic. It started off as a fundraiser for tribes impacted by COVID-19. And then we had our first live show and we blew up. So since 2021, we've been traveling the country. We've performed in New York City. We've performed in Atlanta, Georgia last year. We're performing at Chico State on April 12th this year. And we just performed at San Francisco Sketch Fest.
Nice.
So it's been my baby, my child of comedy. Shows with all native lineups are just few and far between. It's just not really very common. And so when I got a chance to perform with so many native comics doing the virtual comedy shows, I was like, oh, we got to do this like for real and in person. And we have such a thriving Bay native community here. So I just wanted to give something for the people, And so I do a lot of fundraising to make sure it happens because I have my economic development background. I make sure people get paid well when we do my shows. So it's like you're not just getting paid for your 15 or 20-minute set, you're getting paid for the decade of experience behind your craft that allows you to do that 15-minute set. And so I fundraise and I put on I try to support native businesses. So if the venue is set up for it, we'll have vendors, we'll have food vendors. We do this really cool show at the Oakland Museum. We're doing one in September this year. We're confirming the date to be determined. But we bring out food vendors. We have Crystal Wapipaw. She's a chef, Wapipaw's Kitchen, which is in Fruitvale. It's a native restaurant. And so it's really cool. Folks come out. We just have a vibe and you get to experience and see some of the best and brightest native comics in the US and in Canada. We have a lot of First Nations comics that come out too.
Nice.
So it's like the thing that I didn't think I could do.
Yeah.
And then someone was like, you want to do this? And I was like, yes. And I got a chance. Someone gave me a chance. The artistic director of Cal Shakes at the time, sadly, Cal Shakes is no longer around. An amazing theater, outdoor theater. And I had my first ever show in 2021 and we sold out the theater.
That's
amazing.
awesome. Yeah.
And it just has become this wonderful community event. And it's my baby, but it also back to like taking care of myself. I did 6 shows last year and I was working a full-time job.
It's a little high.
It was hard. So this year I had to like pull it in. We're gonna do maybe 4. We're gonna do maybe 4, maybe 5, but we can't be doing 6. We can't be, and I also am hiring people. So last year I finally got funding to hire an event planner. And it was just beautiful to have someone be like, here, you take it.
Yeah.
And then I could focus on my set. I could focus on I could switch gears and just be an artist today and not be the taskmaster. Did you set up? Did you do this? You got that food permit? Do you have it? That's what I usually do.
Yeah.
And so I love Good Medicine. It's awesome. Check us out at goodmedicinecomedy.com.
Do that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that name.
I know, right?
What inspired that?
I mean, honestly, it's like good medicine is such like a common phrase in Indian country. It's like good medicine is laughter, but it's also like good words, good thoughts, good vibes, good feelings. And so when we were doing it, we kicked it off in pandemic. Our first show was May of 2020 and it was online. And it was kind of one of those things where I was like, well, we're in the midst of this like virus. Let's talk about that good medicine. Because I also knew I wanted to do something, but I was terrified. I'm not a frontline worker. I was like, I'm too paranoid about getting sick.
I don't want to be essential.
No, I'm not essential. I am not. But I was like, I know I can give back in this way. So I bought a microphone, set it up, my little ring light, and was like running shows from my kitchen table in my studio apartment in Oakland. And that's how it got started. And so Good Medicine was the name. I didn't think it would become what it is today.
Yeah.
Like people know that Good Medicine is kind of like synonymous with Native comedy. And I would just love to see us get on Netflix, or get like a special where you can like see all the up and coming Native comics, because we have so much talent and so many folks are not living right next to a scene. Like I'm lucky. I'm right in the Bay. I got stage time whenever I want it. I'm just spoiled for choice. But there's a lot of comics who are living in more remote areas that they got to like drive 2 hours to get a 5-minute set. And so like what I try to do is really highlight the sort of bright lights, but also I want to get to a point where I can do a festival and like hire and bring on sort of up and coming talent that are still sort of like honing. Because right now with the fundraising and all that kind of stuff, I gotta like make sure it's a knock out of the park show, but I would love to be able to like set aside something for like comics that are like maybe 2, 3, 4 years under their belt. Most of the people on my lineup are like 10 years into the business, and you can tell they bring that experience to the
swagger,
stage. Yeah. And you want to have that knock it out of the park, because we're still trying to like build our reputation, but we've been getting invited by different theaters, and that's like so cool. Like when we got contacted by New York City, I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Broadway. No, that's awesome.
No, it was cool. We got to perform at not Times Square, the World Trade Center.
Oh wow.
The PAC Performing Arts Center in the World Trade Center. They just opened up last year, and they were like, "You want to be part of our inaugural season?" And I was like, okay, where do I sign?" Like it was just like very cool.
That's
it was exciting.
Dope.
Yeah.
Right on. Is there any other things that you have project-wise that you want to highlight?
No, I think that's it. Chico State, April 12th. Well, we're going to do Good Medicine in September, but I'm figuring out the date. So you'll find us in Oakland at some point. Just follow me at Jackie Comedy. And that's where folks can like see what I'm working on.
Stay up to date. Make sure you're tapping in.
Yeah.
Was there a book? I was doing some research.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a book.
Yeah.
There is a book. It's called We Had a Little Real Estate Problem. And it's by Cliff Nesteroff. He's a Canadian historian who interviewed several Native comics. And I'm in there, and several of my friends are in there. And it really is just an opportunity to learn about the way that Native comedy is happening in the US and Canada. He's got a lot of folks in there, but the title of the book is a joke by famous Native comic who's sadly no longer with us, Charlie Hill. And Charlie Hill had his first late night debut on the Richard Pryor Show. It's an amazing set. It holds up today. Go watch it on YouTube. And it's like, he's our godfather of Native comedy. Like Charlie Hill made it so that the rest of us could do what we do. And I was fortunate enough when I was a student at Cal in 2005, he came out for Native American Heritage Month. There was a comedy show, and I was like, it was just wild because he had jokes talking about the Native experience. And I'd always loved comedy. I grew up watching comedy in my house. Like we had comedy on all day, every day, but I'd never seen anyone be able to speak to the Native experience. And I remember he had a joke. He was like, white people have square dances, Native people have, and we're all round dances, like it was cool. It was like this inside baseball. And I remember just watching him, and I was like, oh, what is that? And that's when I learned there's a local scene of people that get up every night and do this? What? And that's how
Mm.
I started watching the comedy scene and eventually made my way to taking the stage. But
Wow.
yeah, he's a foundational piece in all of our stories. And so the book itself sort of tells the story of Charlie Hill and also all of the sort of younger Native comics that followed in his wake, you know? So
Yeah.
that's what it is. Like he paved the path for us. I want to be able to do that for somebody else. I want
That's
someone to go, I came to this show, I saw this, that's why I do this now, and now I'm the new whatever, like the new Quinta Brunson of Indian
yeah.
country or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I want. I would love that. I would love for my nieces to see, like it meant so much to me that my nieces could watch Spirit Rangers and see
Right.
Auntie Jackie being a little sassy seahorse with like a native story in the background. Because they're Indian too, and I don't think they're gonna understand it until they're like later on in life, like what it means to be native,
Mhm.
what it means to be California Indian specifically, because the American consciousness is so obsessed with like, you know, the Westerns and sort of the Plains Indians, and there's like a whole other community here that people don't know about. And so it just meant so much. And I'm like, we didn't have that growing up. Look
Yeah.
at these girls. They got a native cartoon they can watch. What? You know?
That's
They could see
beautiful.
Auntie Jackie on screen, or her voice anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I think that's a great book. Check it out. We had a little real estate problem.
We'll put a link on that for sure.
Yeah.
Jackie, this has been wonderful. I want to thank you so
Yeah.
much for your time. Before I let you go,
Yes.
I just want to make sure I offer space for any final thoughts or energy you want to leave the people with. What do we need to know?
We got to take care of one another. We're going to need it. Things are going to get a little wild, and they already are. But I think the best thing we can do is take care of ourselves and take care of one another. And we got to weather this storm, because there's been many. All of our people have, all of our subsequent shit, all people before us experienced them. Heinous shit, heinous stuff. And so we are a privilege and lucky to be here and have the power and the agency that we do have. And I think it's important for us to exercise that. But we do have to take care of ourselves first and foremost, and then also those around us. So when you're asking yourself, do I do this thing? Do I do that? Make sure that what you're doing next is in service of yourself and your community and your people.
Couldn't say it any better. People, Jackie Keliiaa.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.